Well, the headlines have documented that the government shutdown is over, and while the shenanigans in Washington may continue, we thought we'd just take a moment, bring on a guru, and let's discuss who are the winners and losers, if there are any, with the government shutdown. Alex Snitker, how are you, my friend?
Doing well, Brandon, doing very well.
So we have another quasi-government shutdown. It's the terms they use, not that it actually makes a difference to anything like that. They totally broke me in 2013, by the way, whenever they were actually shut down. And then the moment they got back within minutes, they pushed forth an emergency bill to pay everyone. So basically just give people free vacation days with these phony political ploys. So this is no different. What is it that you think about this stunt, if you will? Who came out looking the worst?
Well, first off, let me just say that I do view a lot of this as political theater, and that depending on who's in charge is who has what specific outrage on it and who doesn't have any specific outrage on it. So, because if you look at guys like Schumer and even guys like Trump, is that when they were on the other side of the fence, they were saying the exact opposite thing that they were saying now. And I think that the bravado that they have in doing that is one of the most amazing things that I get to watch, is that just the utter hypocrisy on both sides. But to come with the who's the losers and the winners on this one, I think that they're all going to take a little bit of a hit, in that the American people are really seeing that we really do have a very dysfunctional federal government. I don't mind that we see a dysfunctional federal government, but I think they're both coming out a little bit scathed in this. I think the Democrats are going to take it worse than the Republicans, because the Democrats ended up caving, and I think that's going to irritate their own base of support, which will transfer, I think, a little bit more in down the road, if it transfers at all. But in the political world right now, there's 5 political lifetimes between now and the election. But I think the Democrats probably took a little bit worse just because they caved.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more in the latter part of that. Obviously, I think the Democrats, basically by caving as quickly as they did, basically are thumbing their nose at the leftists, right? They just didn't see that this wasn't going to play out well with all of the Democratic senators that are actually up for midterm election. And I agree with you. It's a little to nothing by the time we get to the midterm election, other than we did see a little effects from this last time. You saw a few people being used against them, so we might see it a little bit. But I definitely think it sort of like took some of the momentum of the anti-Trump train away from the Democrats because of this.
Yeah, and the thing is, for all the things that you can say about Trump and the negative, the fact that he really does name these things and the names stick, like the Schumer shutdown.
Yeah,
like the fact that he's able to name that stuff actually just plays. And I still don't think the Democrats are used to having to go against a guy like Trump as the president. And I think that gives him an advantage. Being the outsider, being the person that is unashamed to say anything, really does have an advantage for him in these situations, because I think that he plays well in the chaos.
And when you said it, you thought that it didn't play well for the Republicans. I actually will disagree. I don't think it really hurts Trump much at all. I mean, I really don't think that it really matters to, definitely not the Trump supporters, whoever they are. But most of the folks they already see the dysfunctional Washington from the right, and they see the Democrats as being bad guys. The Democrats literally couldn't get out of their own way and walked into that even more so. And with an increased sort of infighting with Schumer, I think it actually sort of helps Trump, not necessarily Republicans, but I think it actually helps Trump with what you're saying, because it kind of, again, it's like a backhanded proof that he was right again.
No, I understand. I do understand your point, and I think the overall of hurting them both really, I think the point I was making in that aspect, it really is more overall due to the fact that, and we'll get to this in another segment, but we are not working under the normal rules of Washington, D.C. Is that we're not really working under what I would consider to be, the way that it should be run. And, with continuing resolutions and 3-week timetables, I do think that you are getting an American public that's kind of recognizing how messed up it all is, and also seeing that now the Republicans in charge, we have the same thing when they were promising to try to fix these things, and they're not fixing it, where it's just this, it's the same business as usual. As a matter of fact, I was listening to an NPR segment when I was driving down the road, and they were almost upset that the economy didn't tank or didn't show signs of weakening due to this. And then, but in there, they actually answer their own question, is that this has become the new normal, and that the business community is not even phased with this. And they really did sound like upset and a little bit depressed that it didn't hurt Trump as much as they would have wanted it to.
We actually cover a little story that's very down that same line. And of course, crazy Chris Matthews over at MSNBC was kind of like bemoaning the exact same thing, because when the tax cuts are helping businesses, when things are going well, they're not going to be able to get rid of Trump. And he was kind of bemoaning that. So it was like, well, do you really want America to do well, or do you just care about political gameplay? And we know the answer to that. So it is another layer of them exposing themselves of who they really are and how team-oriented the media is, and how some of these talking heads are. So one last thing to this, and this is my theory, and this is, again, a proof that Trump doesn't really have good people around him, because if you have someone like you or me, this is what we would do. We would go forth and we would propose a budget, an actual budget, which they don't do anymore. We would actually propose a budget, and we would just do 3.5 trillion. Just something that's so, it's not even good enough, but it's enough that it would cut almost $1 trillion. The media is going to come out and they're going to say, Trump proposed his budget, going to cut $700 million, whatever. And we would just have our guy go out there all the time going, I'm actually as confused as you guys are about the headlines. Why can't we run this country on $3.5 trillion? During the Bush administration, we did this. During Obama's administration, we did this. We can't do that? I'm confused. And just literally because he's sort of like above reproach of them questioning that. Right?
Yeah, it would be, and it would also give him a good starting negotiating point, but also show the seriousness that we have to get back to the normal budgetary process. Is that this process cannot continue to go. But the one thing is, and this does show the bipartisan support, is that they all want to spend more money than what we have coming in, which is why that, when they had the tax cut argument, and the argument was, well, this is going to balloon the debt. Well, it's not necessarily going to balloon the debt unless you keep spending money.
Correct.
And they're going to keep spending money. So it's not even a question of, they won't even entertain the notion that they should spend less money. They only entertain the notion that they have to spend more money.